Welcome. I'm Natasha.
And I'm Brie.
On Beyond the Marley, we bring you exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the dance team world. Each episode features an engaging conversation with top professionals who share tips and tricks for success and powerful stories that will leave you feeling inspired. Whether you are a seasoned pro or just getting started in the dance team world, Beyond the Marley podcast has something for you. Hey, what's up? How are you today?
Good, just busy working on some BCM stuff, getting Cougarettes signed up for all of their competitions. What's up with you?
What's up with me? I obviously am really excited for today to get on podcasts. Like podcasting day is pretty much like a highlight of getting to do all the fun things and connect with new people in the dance world. But what's up with me? Just working on Studio 360's All-Star stuff. And we're going to start like doing open gyms, open studio time. So just trying to get that figured out and how to roll out. And we started this like email automation system. So every time someone like fills out like, hey, I'm coming to a masterclass, or like, hey, I signed up for this, like it automates emails to them to just make it like give them all the information, but like less time on our end. So yeah, I'm learning digital things like what a zap is and
zapping in, zapping out. That's
yeah,
cool.
like
we're setting up a CRM with Brie choreography management too, and so it's going to automate a lot more stuff for us. And when people fill out the request form, they're going to automatically get an email that's like, "Hey, we're looking over it." And then like as it goes through the different steps of all the things, it's just going to help us make everything better for our clients. How is the studio going?
Studio's going good. This year, I think so far, our big like word is connection. So just like I feel with our staff, especially, like sometimes I don't even see all of my staff because like they're in when I'm out or vice versa, or I'm working from home during the day, obviously, and then teaching only a couple nights a week. So our big word is connection. And like last week we did a really cool, like everyone brought food in. We brought food in. And then like next week we're having James Silvis come to like connect with our team. That's been good to just get more connection. And that was something in our staff retreat that everyone like shared, that they just wish they could like see each other more, to like talk about like how your classes are going, or like, hey, we're teaching the same class. What are you doing in this and that? And just making sure that we're aligned in curriculum. So that's been good. Our first competition is already coming up. So that's big, November.
We had James work with our staff at Envision Dance and Gymnastics recently, and it was great. And then I had James to work with Cougarettes yesterday, actually. And it's always great, full of revelations, all the things. So yeah, good stuff.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to kick off season 3. How about you? Yeah.
Podcast interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, again, like I said, this is the time to like, it's fun to connect and like talk about all the things we get to do and put the tasks away. And if you've been wondering, where have we been? Well, we just gave you a little tune to where we've been with all of our different dance world things. And this is where you've been with baby Miles.
This little man, Miles. You can hear him hiccuping and making noises in the background.
Well, we love him and he's getting so big so fast. But yeah, I'm really excited because I think the episode we are recording today is just like the perfect way to start season 3. And I'm ready to introduce her. I'm excited to introduce Sarah Bate. Sarah is the Director of the Rules for USASF. For those that don't know what USASF is, that is the United States All-Stars Federation. This year, the USASF celebrates 21 years of championing athletes and shaping the future of all-stars. It began in 2003 when several event producers came together to make all-stars a safer sport by establishing fair and consistent rules and competition standards. A membership system was developed for all participants to help maintain competition compliance and fair play in the sport. Today, the USASF includes more than 150 members. I am so proud to be a member of USASF, as is Brie, and we cannot wait to dive into this episode.
We're so lucky to have Sarah on today. Sarah Miller Bate has over 35 years of dance experience and holds a dual BA in Dance and Education from Old Dominion University. She's judged major national dance competitions for over 20 years. She's danced with multiple modern companies and performed at international festivals. She is certified in classical Pilates. She's also taught Olympic athletes and even co-created a bar fitness program. Currently, she's the director of dance rules, like Natasha said, for the USASF, working on advancing all-star dance initiatives in general. This is a very abbreviated version of all that Sarah has accomplished, and we're just super grateful and super excited that we get to chat with her today. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Sarah. All right, our first question. We are kicking off, season 3, but we're gonna always keep this first question. One of my favorite leaders, his name's John Wooden, which he's a basketball coach, I mean, I'm all about dance, but I do love everything he has on leadership. And he says there is no education like adversity. So we know all about your incredible successes that you've had, but we want to know, what has been your biggest struggle to get to where you are today?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I kind of have just followed the flow. Oh, I'm so happy to still be in the dance world. Getting my degree in dance. You never know what that's going to mean, where that's going to end up. I thought I would go to New York and audition, and that's not how life went. But I think just staying true to that path, and when it got tough, sticking through and following that passion, I think has been maybe not an adversity, but a tough thing to kind of overcome. Just again, staying in the world and staying plugged in. Certainly, I'd say currently is just fighting the I guess the outside view of what people think All-Star Dance is, and really getting the word out, awareness about we're not cheerleaders who dance. This is trained dancers who are in a studio. And so I'd say my current adversity is fighting that perception of what All-Star dancers are, but personally is just staying true to myself and, sticking to that dance path wherever it led me.
Okay. And how has USASF, how have you fought that perception, or I guess educated the world on what All-Star Dance is? Because obviously the three of us all know and we're all in on it, but All-Star Dance is, in my opinion, way better than studio dance and is going to completely take over the dance world as we know it.
I agree.
But yeah, so how do we educate people on that? How do we get the word out?
I think it's getting our dancers out in front of people, sharing world's footage of these elite dancers who not only perform so well, but are also part of a team. And then that also kind of lends itself to looking at them in the college sphere, that college dance is really coming into the light now. It's stepping into its own. I have studio friends who send me stuff from college nationals and they're like, have you seen this? Of course I've seen it.
Where are you from?
But All-Star is more and more becoming a feeder into these collegiate programs because of POM, because of the teamwork, but then also they're trained dancers. So it's kind of the best of all the world. So I think mainly is getting our elite dancers just in front of the world. We're reaching out to magazines and different opportunities for us to just let people see these dancers shine. So it's not about me or the organization. It's who we have as athlete members and what they're doing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And you bring up college athletes. If you look at collegiate dancing, it's exactly what All-Star trains.
Yep.
The style, the cleans, even the way it's judged is similar, the palm, the turns. So I always tell people, any kid who wants to dance in college needs to be doing All-Star. How did you get involved in All-Star Dance?
Yeah.
I started judging almost right out of high school. I taught camps for National Dance Alliance, NDA, for over 10 years, was a head instructor, and just really found my footing in the dance team world through NDA. And again, started judging pretty early on. And one of those competitions was NDA All-Star Nationals. And that sort of was my first foot in the door of realizing what All-Star is and what the community is. I became legality official certified. So USASF certifies essentially the safety officials, the umpires at All-Star events. And so I got in that way and then became the associate director of dance rules. And it just kind of continued from there. I've been at the dance worlds for over 10 years now. I'm more on the administrative side. I help run it now. So it's, again, like I said, I just kind of followed the flow and it led me to All-Star. And it really was this convergence of my background. I was a studio kid. I started dance team in high school. I have that modern background, but also that foot in the dance team world. And All Star just felt like this marriage of both of them that was authentic to me. So I found a home. All Star is where I'm meant to be, I think.
I love that you said it married that the studio and dance team, because as you were talking, I was thinking like how All Stars does really bridge that, and really brings the path to college dance, and the team aspect is huge. That is what we continue to strive for and continue to stand out differently, is that it's not about just one dancer, it's about the team. And it doesn't matter where you're standing on the floor, because the picture is not complete unless every single dancer
That's right.
is there. So what do you think All Star offers that studio dance a typical studio doesn't?
Certainly the team component. It's not about that solo or the 5 solos you get to do on a given weekend. It is that coming together of a team, the unison component, being in the trenches together. I just really think that that's unique to All Star or to a school dance environment that we bring to the studio, kind of feel. There's a certain athleticism too to All Star dance that maybe we don't find in the studio world. So not to say studio dancers are not athletes at all, but there is like an athletic component, high energy, whether you're talking contemporary lyrical or hip hop, but just off the charts, high energy athleticism is something that kind of sets it apart too.
Absolutely. Another thing you mentioned is like at competitions as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. The difference between a studio competition and a all-star competition. Are you kidding me? Like
totally. There is
no
not. I'm really glad you brought that up, Bree. It's a totally different experience. I am a stickler for being on time, and I know it seems like such a small thing, but All-Star events run to the minute. Now we have these intervals, a 3-4 interval or a 4-4 interval, where those event producers are right on their timing. If your dancer is supposed to compete at 2:22, they're taking the stage at 2:22. You're not showing up an hour early and you've already missed them. So it's from that to the crowd involvement. It's not a quiet environment. You are cheering your team on. You have other teams cheering for you. It's just this real camaraderie. I mean, it's a vibe unlike a studio event.
Yeah, it's more. You said it's more athletic, right? It's more like,
yeah,
let's go. That's my team.
Totally.
It's more fun. And
yeah.
I don't mean to bash on studio comps, but one thing I love about all-star competitions is you understand what's going on. Here are all of the junior jazzes. There are 8 of them. And then at the end, there's a first place, second place, third place, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. At studio competitions, I being in the dance world, having gone to studio as a kid, you would think I would understand what's going on. And half the time it's like, okay, well, this studio that was an extra apprentice, old contemporary, they got a super emerald high releve rating.
I just rolled my eyes.
Okay, but then that one got super bold high jumper diamond rating. I don't understand. I don't know. So did we win? Did they win?
Correct.
Yeah, and like from the parents' perspective, like I've experienced both, like from a studio owner standpoint, like we've done both, and there's just because like where I'm located, like studio competition is huge and like in our area. So we've done those, but from a parent perspective, like they're always left confused. They're like, so like what they really get, and like how does my child really know, like do they need to grow in or like work hard? And it's that fear of disappointment. I think that this industry has fueled in a way of like kids can't be left disappointed because then they're going to quit, and if they quit then our studios aren't gonna have enough kids, and et cetera, like it goes down that rabbit hole. But that fear, it's like, no, like they need to learn disappointment. If not here in this safe, very supported environment, when are they ever going to learn, hey, disappointment equals growth, and challenge equals how I grow. Being comfortable with the uncomfortable, something like we talk about is like the stretch zone. Like you only can grow in the stretch zone, not the comfortability zone. And I think that we've gotten away from making sure that everyone feels comfortable at competitions, and like, no, like I want our kids to grow and like have these lessons, because then when they get to their next challenge, whatever that might be in life, like they're gonna have the tools to do that. And from parents, they even ask like, well, like I said, like what did they get, and what is my money going towards? Like, is it just for this like super awesome thing? And then my last point is like being on stage at competitions and studios. I look around, kids are disengaged. Like they're not paying attention. I have witnessed kids sleeping on stage during, like literally laying down, sleeping on the stage during awards. I've witnessed kids just being on their phones during awards. I've had kids personally, like from our studio, like, when is this over? Like, oh my gosh, All Stars. Let's go into All-Star World. Our kids are holding hands, and I have a video, and I'll send it to you, Sarah. Like, I have a video of our tinies. It wasn't even their awards ceremony. It was one of our teams, and they are sitting in the back holding hands, waiting for and I was like, and they would like cheer for everyone. It was so cute. And then like when our team got called, they cheered so big. But it's like, it means something to them, and we can have these hard conversations of, why did we place here? And I'm just went on a long tangent, but like, why did we place here? But then I can go back to parents, and I'm like, well, here's the score sheet. Literally in my parent orientation this year, I pulled up a score sheet from our competition last year, and I walked them through it. Like, here's the feedback we get. Here's the scoring. Here's what it means. Here's what we look at. Here's what we maybe are like, okay, thank you. But, here's what we really can like do and change and grow. And we share that, and it's transparency. And just like All Stars has that ability for studio owners to have open conversations about children's growth. So sorry, I went on a whole tangent, but I'm with you on that.
Well, and I'm sorry, just to tag on to your tangent, on the All-Star side, judge training is so, so important. Transparency, what the score sheet is, what you can expect from the score sheet. A lot of our event producers make them public. They do webinars where they walk you through, this is what a judge is looking at when they're looking at the uniformity caption. This is what a judge is looking at when they're looking at, a technical difficulty caption or whatever may be on their score sheet. So it's like you were saying, there's transparency, but there's also this opportunity for learning to really go back and feel like there's a meatiness to your comments. It's not a verbal comment where you're crickets, crickets, crickets. Oh, nice turn. Crickets, crickets, crickets. Pull up in that releve. It's meatier than that. And the judges are trained to really give to the coaches, the instructors, the teachers to make sure that their kids are able to grow. It is absolutely a goal of our event producers.
And what's nice is it's the same score sheet all season.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you go to this brand studio comp, then this brand, then this brand, then this brand, and they're all different and you have nothing to grow on. No, it's the exact same score sheet and judges who are trained the exact same way. And so, in this category, if you get a 8.1 in uniformity and you get comments on that, okay, well then our goal is to beat that 8.1 the next competition. And then through that growth, we celebrate if we can, grow a little bit every competition, then that's a win and that's something to be celebrated, right?
Right.
We're on the topic of judging and judging training. What does that process look like of getting all of these judges across all of these events trained the same way?
So some event producers have slightly different score sheets, but I think the purpose and the meaning behind the captions is pretty similar across the board. And their trainings are individual, what they expect from their judges. Do they want that, which I just read a great article from Positive Coaching Alliance about maybe that compliment sandwich isn't the way to go anymore. It was really, really enlightening. But, that is the philosophy. Do you do a positive, a needs work, a positive, or Are you trying to get out as much as you can? Do you stay within ranges with one another? Are they open ranges? So that does kind of vary from event producer to event producer, but we have a lot of judges that are sort of in the circuit and who go from event producer to event producer. And so there's this exchange of knowledge. They have, their training programs. I can speak for Worlds because it's an event that we put on, but the judges onboarding for that event is very intense. There are meetings. They watch dances remotely and turn in their score sheets so that their panel director is able to kind of see where everyone is and to be able to train up to make sure that at Worlds, at our most elite event, that there's consistency, there's fairness, and there is a checks and balances to it. It's hard to say because, again, our event producers, everybody has their own philosophy, which is beautiful. But I just think from that base level training that they provide is, kind of what unifies it all.
Question for you that I think I'm curious, but I've also had conversations with other studio owners about this. And I think I've gotten the answer before, but I would love to hear it from you. So if I have a Tiny's team and a Minis team and a youth team and a junior team and a senior team, with the rules and with scoring, is it supposed to be weighted? Like my time are not going to go get a 92. I don't know, just throwing a number out there. Versus that would be something you would maybe see in the senior level. Or is it strictly this is a score no matter if it's Tiny's, Minis, juniors, youth? Is there any difference in scoring? Is there supposed to be? Are we supposed to see that?
That's kind of a philosophy for the event producer. Certainly the events that I judge at, it is not. That it is, the score sheet is a score sheet is a score sheet. And so you're looking at, that's a beginner dancer. They're not going to score a 9.8 because they're just not at a 9.8 level yet. There is no factoring in of the ages. And then that also, not guarantees, but you're not going to see, a mini team as a grand champion at an event because they scored a perfect 10, but you have these seniors with their difficulty and, the intricacy of formations and spacing and all of those advanced level things that a little mini is not, they're just not, elite performers at. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That total sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's so good that you said, and I really, really hope that everybody heard that, because that's helpful for me to say to our parents and to our kids. That gives me the tools to be able to say, okay, here's why, and also keeps them hungry. We talk about longevity in this sport. We want our kids to come back as minis and youth and go through the whole system and into college. We want them to have that so that they can keep working, and that goes along with the philosophy, I think, of all-star studio owners of progress over perfection or growth over perfection.
Absolutely.
We're growing, and that continues on and on and on. But then to piggyback off that, the other common thing I've heard is, and this again, not sure, I mean, with your experience, you probably could answer this, but going from one competition to another. So going from, I'm going to throw us out there. We're going to Nation's Choice in November and we're going to Dance Fest in January. Should we see a correlation or not in those scores? So let's say our junior team gets a 86 at Nation's Choice, but then in January, they get a 82. Is that completely separate? One competition is that competition, throw out that score. But I think from studio owners, we get well, they got an 86 and now they went and gotten an 82. Oh gosh, the routine looks so much better than it did obviously in November to January.
Right.
So I these are the conversations we hear, and then parents are well, they went down, they didn't improve, and you're well, no, they did. But
right.
Yeah, what do events, and then from a rules standpoint, all-star standpoint, what is that?
Yes. So I would say look at your event producer. If you're under the heading of a single event producer, from one to the next, it should be consistent. If you're going from one to a different one, it might not be as consistent. It depends on that judge's philosophy, how they're training their judges, all of those kind of things. So it's hard to say without knowing, like umbrella event producer, who are you going to? However, you should see consistency in like comments. The things that you've been working on, are again through that judging training that we do. I would say there's consistency in comments. I know it's tough to go back to the parents and say, yes, it's an 82, but they did all of this so much better. Or so it's hard to stand on that. I totally get it. As far as the rules, I can guarantee those are the same across the board from event to event to event. They are going to have the exact same rules. And that's something that is different in the studio world too. Not only are they different, but they're enforced. We really want fair play. We really want a level playing field. And without restricting creativity or what the kids are capable of doing, we also want to support proper progression and making sure that they're moving up in a safe and supported way through their skills. So I can definitely speak to the rule side that is purely consistent from one event to another. Some event producers choose to use the world score sheet. So you go to that event and you're already on a world score sheet. So then I would absolutely expect consistency. You should see growth if you're feeling that the team has grown, So yeah, it varies. I know that's not the cleanest answer, but
I think that's a great answer. And I think it's just a lot of perceptions, and you don't know unless you are talking to an expert in the room, and that's you. So it's very helpful to know. Just curious, you said the competitions, some of the event producers use the world score sheets. Is that something you ask? Is that something event producers openly talk about? Is that something like an owner could say, do you use world score sheets? And is that just for the like junior senior category? Is that all categories?
Great. Those are great questions. We had an ask from our memberships. USASF is a membership organization, and we really try to listen to our members and to meet those asks when they make sense and to strive just to keep getting better. And so recently we were asked, what if it was made a little bit more public who uses that world score sheet? So just this season, on the website, on the Dance World's website, we have a little spot where you can click and you can see every event producer who is using that world score sheet this year. So it's absolutely public. We want things to be transparent and out there. And the ones who aren't using it, it's certainly not bad blood. It's just not fitting in with what they're doing right now. We're working together to try to get to a place because it only serves membership to be on that score sheet the whole time. And then I can say generally, I think most event producers just use it for that junior senior open, the ones that will actually see at Worlds, but some use it fully for all of their kids. Again, you'd probably see lower scores. They're not going to be getting those 9s and 10s on a world score sheet at the mini level, but it depends on the event producer. And we really encourage membership. Reach out, establish a relationship with your event producer, not hidden behind a curtain. They want to hear from you. And they usually readily offer up that information. All you have to do is ask.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that there's that relationship you can build and just the consistency across the board with everyone who's in a USASF member or event producer. This might be taking it going backwards a little bit, but as you're talking, I was also thinking about how just all-star dance is huge in some areas of the country. And it almost seems like as soon as one studio opens up, a bunch other are follow, right? Have you seen that? What areas have you seen that in, and why do you think that is?
It's a really good question. Definitely I've seen it. We have pockets of hotbeds, kind of. Houston is certainly one, that Spring, Texas, that area. And when you get up into Iowa, South Dakota, interestingly, has a pocket. So yeah, we see just these sort of, places across the country. I think once a studio catches wind that the studio down the street has started All-Star, they kind of perk up like, oh, what is that? Oh, my kids are kind of interested, or, oh, my kids feed into high school and that high school coach is willing to work with the All-Star team, or it's an additional source of revenue, right? As a studio owner, I could incorporate All-Star and it's got another competitive team that I can incorporate in my studio. So I think some of it is interest and curiosity. Like, well, I want to do that too. How do I get involved? And then some, it's where the event producers have set up shop, right? Where they have those big events and dance studios around there get interested. They create their programs and then it kind of mushrooms from there. So it's so interesting. You are absolutely right that the phenomenon exists. Part of our initiatives with growth is sort of figuring out how to bottle that. Like, how do we create new pockets? How do we expand that? West Coast, there's a ton of opportunity out there. And we know there's a ton of amazing dancers out there. So yeah, it's like, how do you drop that pin and then ding, 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 get all of those other, yeah, the studios to join too.
So what resources are there for studio owners who want to start all-star studios in maybe a place where there is no all-star and there is I mean, I'm asking for myself right now, right? Me and my business partner, we started an all-star studio here in Las Vegas. We, have the first all-star program in the entire state of Nevada, and nobody knows what it is. So what are there any resources that USASF has to help a studio like ours educate our people?
Yeah, we develop a lot of resources within the USASF, and as part of membership, coaches and owners have access to all of those resources. So I think it's using the parent handbook that we've created, seeing all of those benefits. It could even be that you sit down with other studio owners, and it's sort of like we were saying at a competition. It's everybody's cheering for everyone. We hold each other up. It's like that in the all-star world too. Yes, they're competitive with you, right? It's another business down the street, but I am a firm believer that a rising tide lifts all ships. And so it's inviting them into your space and sharing the resources and saying, this is what All-Star is. Certainly I'm on call all the time. So pointing people this direction and just having kind of grassroots conversations. And then we're looking into inviting studios to local events this year. So we do have a big event in Las Vegas. And so outreach and reaching out to those studios and saying, come see what All Stars is all about. Come to this event, join us. You're going to love that it runs on time and that everyone is, cheering for each other. And it's just an atmosphere unlike any other. So it's a lot of grassroots efforts, and our owners do that too. So tapping into our resources and spreading the word, I'd say.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, the collaborative nature of it, right? Because I feel like often, or maybe this is different in other parts of the country, but at least on the West Coast, it's a lot more competitive between studios. And it's like, how dare you take my person? How dare you take my person? We hate you. We hate you. But that's just not the vibe in All-Star Dance. No. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, ooh, who could I reach out to and be like, hey, try All-Star.
Yeah.
It's scary already, that culture of like competitiveness and not niceness, you know what I mean? But I really hope that that's something. I absolutely foresee more All-Star studios popping up, and I absolutely foresee studios who already exist adding All-Star programs. I feel like a lot more of it's going to come from the alumni that we create.
Yes, that's a really great point. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they see that value, right? What All-Star did for them. And that's another thing we're huge on is it's not just what happens on the Marley, it's beyond the Marley, right? It's those life skills that they're learning too. It's the resiliency, because everyone isn't a winner. You don't get a participatory medal. It is first, second, third, or it's showing up for your team when you've had a hard day, or your team showing up for you, or just all of those kind of intangibles. How do you move those forward into real life? And how does that mold you as like a whole human? And then, Bree, to your point, then to plug in and instill that in other kids and to pass that along, I think is another place it comes from. Absolutely. Is that legacy turn of things.
I have a follow-up to that too, because you guys are like, USASF is huge on character building, and you talk about the resources that USASF offers studio owners and support. Can you talk about those specific initiatives that help studio owners develop leaders within our studios, but also they like there's at the USASF conference, there's opportunities for leaders to go, like student leaders to go. And then there's also like different initiatives like Bolt and Give Back. Do you want to talk about that? Because I think that is such a huge component of what makes All Stars so unique?
Absolutely. So we have leadership programs, both for athletes and for coaches. But to talk specifically on the athlete side, it's differentiated by age. So we're not throwing them all together. We have a leadership program, Athletes in Action, that's for our middle school age kids. And then Bolt is the leadership program for those older kids, where they work on working through adversity and building those leadership characteristics. We offer that at the national conference, but also studios can invite it in virtually. So you plan your own leadership programming. You talk to our director of all of that, Kinshasa Garrett, and she works with you to specialize. What do you need? What is your team working on with their leadership skills, and how do you see them, moving forward and progressing? And then kids who go through the leadership program and feel moved to do more, we also have our Athlete Advisory Council, and they apply to that. It's actually a pretty rigorous application process. And then they help move initiatives from the athlete standpoint. So we even listen to those members of the USASF. What matters to the athletes? What matters to those dancers and those cheer kids? What do they want to see happen to their membership? So it's certainly like an on-ramp, and that is further leadership training too. And then we also have a scholarship program that kids who are seniors can apply for. And a lot of that is also that leadership. What are they doing on and off the Marley or on and off the floor? So it is like a direct up kind of step. And all of that comes with leadership stuff they can take with them and move forward with outside of All-Star. And then we also, like I said, have the stuff for our adult members too, our coaches, our teachers, and a similar kind of onboarding. They have a leadership opportunity, but then we also have our regional advisory boards, our connection leaders, our dance advisory board, and it's just further feedback and a place to put that leadership into action. So it's not just the learning, it's now how are we implementing what we're learning. So yeah, there's a ton. It's all part of membership.
Oh, and it's so good. That's everything. As a parent, that's what you want your kid to be a part of, right? And those are the intangibles that kids should be learning through sports that so often they don't get. What would be your elevator pitch to a parent who is considering switching their kid over to All-Star?
I'm like, how do I get concise?
I know, right? There's so many great things.
Because I could go on and on, right? I would say All-Star Dance. Yeah, exactly. That's it. All-Star Dance is a place for your kid to grow on the floor and off. It's a place for their technique to flourish. It can be an onboarding for college, but more importantly, it's teaching them life skills and who they'll become when dance is over, what that means to them. And it just helps guide them to become whole humans. So it's just about the dance and everything else.
Yes, absolutely. This might be a little bit off topic, but where does the Olympics play into this? USASF and USA Cheer have started being in talks with the Olympics, and I think it was Cheer was approved for 2032. Is dance next? Is that something that we're going to also be able to start pitching to parents like, hey, look, it's All-Star Dance that's going to be, you know what I mean? What's any insight on that?
Yes. So dance is part of that. So there's an umbrella that is cheerleading. When it comes to teen dance, what we look like, it's called performance cheer. And it's because dance sport already exists under the IOC, under that International Olympic Committee. So we want to stay far enough away that we're in our own lane and we don't get too close to what they govern and what they do on their dance side. So it's called performance cheer. And it's the same kind of recognition and the same pathway that cheer's going through. They fought a long, long time for it. And it's, a contingent sport for now. I think that's the right word. I don't want to be misspeaking. So it's been recognized by the IOC, and now countries, their federations are going through that recognition. They have to meet some standards. So USA Cheer, who is our governing body for cheerleading, they're the ones that move forward the cheer and dance teams or the performance cheer teams to that Olympic level. So it's just one foot in front of the other. And I think the leadership for all of that has been fantastic. They've really moved to get it recognized and to get it on a world stage that way. So we're getting there, and dance is part of it. Yeah. I think it brings up a good point. It's the education that dance is part of it that I think is what can start to churn a little bit more, that it's not just the cheer, it's performance cheer, which is dance as we know it.
That's so awesome.
So
and that's
exciting.
such a big
Yeah.
opportunity for the whole industry as well. I was really hoping to see it in LA. I was like, that would be so cool, like LA, like the home of the industry. But yeah, I think it's really awesome. I talked to our kids about it. I'm like, you just never know. Like, you could be training, and if like the Olympics, like it's the Olympics, like it's the biggest thing. And I watch those opening ceremonies.
It's wild.
And it's like, I can't wait to see cheer and dance be part of that. So I wanted to also ask, like, what are some common myths? You talked about perceptions and fighting the good fight, and like, what do you think are like common myths about USASF? And then what would you say to those myths?
Let's start with that perception. USASF did begin on the cheer side, and dance came after it. And we love our cheer friends, but I think there is that perception that all-star dance is cheer hop, hip hop on a sprung floor, and not that authentic, technical hip hop. Or same with pom, that it is like a sideline kind of pom choreography, and that's not the case. So I would just say, educate yourselves. Go to our YouTube channel, tune into Worlds, you go to Varsity TV, whatever it is, watch, observe, absorb, and just take it all in, because it's just not that anymore. I think another misconception is that we're like the big bad rule makers, and that's also not the case. The rules are there. My headphones. The rules are there to create fair play, to make sure that the kids are safe, as I was saying earlier, but they're informed by membership. So it's not anyone in a vacuum creating a rule and saying, now you must follow it. It is done by committee and voted on again and passed by the board. And so it's not that we're the big bad rule makers. It's truly about consistency and fairness, and you have an opportunity to be a part of that process. So I would say I encourage everyone to get involved and to be a part of the process. When the surveys come out, fill it in. If you have a thought about what you think a rule change should be, participate in the rules change submissions that go out. So you can be a part of it. I'd say those are probably the two biggest misconceptions about USASF dance, for sure.
I love that you said participate in helping create the rules, because I think you're spot on, and that just goes to show that like USASF really does listen to their members. Because I sat at a USASF conference, the first one I attended, and I was like, what is this rules thing? Like, we're sitting here and we're all talking about the rules. Wow. But it was really cool to be in the room and like hear the conversations and hear the whys, because sometimes we don't know the why. And then you talked about like fill out forms. Like if you have a question or you want to see something change, I think of two things. One, the prep and elite, which we can like talk about that. But like the difference between what's prep and what's elite. And then recently there's been some changes to the rules for prep for the older prep people, dancers. And like that again was like from memberships talking about like, we need what's the definition of prep? Why is it there? We still need to be developing those dancers through the program. And a lot of those dancers have the hope to be able to dance elite, too. So then there's that. And then the other part of creating rules, I recently was part of a discussion of some owners that was asking about like, I have, let's say, dancers that are, they age out of juniors, but they're not going to be on a senior worlds team, or they're not going to be at the senior level, but like number wise in studios, like where do those kids fall out? And typically at their senior graduating year, there's not a spot for those kids to compete. And I personally had 3 kids in that same boat this year. And so then they either fall out of competition and they do just their school, or they just do classes. But it's kind of like that defeating of like, oh my gosh, like where do those kids go if we're not doing a senior worlds team, or they're not maybe at the level of that. And so we were having this discussion, and then one of those owners was like, hey, who wants to help bring this up. Not saying that it's going to become a thing, but it feels empowering that there's like like together you have a voice, which goes back to your connection, like making connections with other studio teachers and owners in All Stars, because there is that power and that connection of just saying like, hey, you too, me too. Okay, what can we do to make this happen for our businesses and for, the competitions that we're in? And so I think being part of that process was really neat, and felt supported. And so going on that, like, take us through what is the flow, the process of having a rule change at USASF, like for those that don't know or understand.
I can speak specifically to this scenario, actually. Okay. So those rules change submissions come across my computer, my inbox. So I'm the one that receives them. And just for a little background, one person can have the idea, but we actually require that you have coaches, owners from other clubs, from other studios who support the change request. It's not just a person in a vacuum. It is, again, like, oh, you had conversations with 2-3 people, let's move it forward. So just the background on that. But then it comes into my inbox, and we have a close date. At the end of the close date for the submissions, I compile all of those suggestions that come in and kind of determine where they need to go. So some maybe need to go more to our sanctioning committee, they create the sanctioning guidelines. They're the ones that are going to look at flooring in the rehearsal room or those kind of event producer sanction things. Some would go to our World's Advisory Board. So they're looking at a world specific request or change. And then if it is rules, age grid, any of that, it would go through our rules committee. But also this year, our regional advisory board is taking numbers and kind of crunching them. So when we met recently, this is where that request actually went, because what we wanted to do was look at, okay, how many juniors did we have who potentially wouldn't have a place on a senior team? And what is the broad impact across membership? What would it do if we changed the age grid? So just exploring it in a fact-based way so that it's not just feel that. It is the numbers say this is what we should or shouldn't do. So right now, that particular, rules change request is with the RAB, and they're examining it. We did have a rules committee meeting yesterday, and we talked about it. So it kind of does offshoots. We gather from all over. Then once all of that information, that feedback comes in, it'll come back to me, and the rules committee would talk about that one. So it would go back to the rules committee. We would discuss whether or not a change is needed, if it's the right time, what implications would be. From there, it would be passed on to the board. So if we were going to make the change, the board would then vote on whether or not it would happen.
And then
even before that, membership would vote too.
That's what I was like, don't we vote too? Yeah. Which I love that. It's database driven decisions, which is like what we want. And I love that you're like, yes, you have the you feel as an owner, you feel really close to it, and then you talk to others, but then you guys take that on and really research it. And that's what, again, feeling supported and feeling heard and like working together to make the best. So kudos. I just love it. Love it. Going into events, competitions, what would you love to like tell coaches and owners at, like, let's say you get a deduction and right out, then you got the emotions of that. What do you tell your coaches and owners? What would you love? We're getting ready to start competition season. So here's the time. What do you want them to know? Like, you get a deduction. What then? What should you do?
Yes. I'm going to go back even before that and say, if you're a USASF member, download the Coach app. You can submit anything to the Coach app, any skill, your costuming, your prop use, whatever it is, and you can get a ruling before you even show up at an event. So it will say, no, that's illegal and you need to change it, or it's legal. And if you get it called illegal at an event, you have that to stand up on, right? You can say, well, it's already been ruled as legal. And if I'm the one on the back end that does those rulings, and I'm fallible, I make mistakes. So even if I make a mistake, that ruling in your app would be upheld, you would still need to change whatever is illegal. But you did your due diligence. You sent your stuff in, and you made sure before you even got to an event if it was legal or illegal. So I would start with that. Download your coach app, and that's something really unique to All Star too, that I haven't seen that in any other place in the dance world, that you have that support and that feedback too. So, and it's not just that you would be told it's illegal, you would know why and what you need to change. So it's just a really great educational tool too. And then moving into, should you receive a deduction at an event, just remember you're representing the kids and the kids see you. So, I understand the emotion of it. I've been in this conversation so many times. It breaks my heart. I train our legality officials by saying, we're not here to be punitive. We're not here to find that one little thing that went wrong. We're here to help support fairness and to make sure the kids are safe, and then for that educational component. So I would just say, try to put a cool hat on, like a calm head, step away if you need to before you talk to someone, but don't be afraid to talk to someone either, because there are people at those events who can help walk you through. During that legality official training, we encourage them to use technology. So say it's a release where a dancer goes way too high and they come back down. And that's never how you rehearse it. If you choreographed it correctly and adrenaline just got a hold of those kids, well, we encourage them, use your phone, take a picture of what happened. They have playback, they have a delayed screen. I mean, they've got all the tools up there to help them. So it's never coming from a place of, haha, we got you. It's just, the rule was broken and this is what happens next. So keeping a calm head and understanding that, it's fair across the board, and that no one is trying to, hunt down those things that are going wrong. And be open, just be open to whatever that advice or that feedback is from your legality official. They just want you to get it all legal.
And I've been on that end before, and of like having to go ask, and I've had great conversations, great learning moments, or even like clarification moments. I'm thinking of one, I think it was 2 years ago. They were like, hey, make sure you use hands-free palms. And I was like, oh, we have them actually. And then they showed them the palm, and then they were like, oh, okay, yeah, you were. So like, it was, like it's those type of things of like, I understand the safety of that. And then being able to go up and have a conversation, and not saying it always is reversed or whatever, but like being able to have that conversation really is helpful. And like you said, keeping that calm, collected, professional. It's an opportunity for, like you said, the kids to hear or see you. Most of the time, my kids have no idea. They have no idea what's even happening. So So my last question before we wrap up. There's a question after that, but so I talked about prep and elite. Can you talk to our listeners that are a studio owner, maybe it's out there listening, like what is still trying to figure out USASF? There's the prep division and the elite division. Why does USASF have those? What is the purpose? And then talk about some of those rules changes that recently happened to help progress the prep division.
Yeah. So we actually have 3 tiers, we call them: novice, prep, and elite. I think we may be going through a name change next season, 25-26. But for now, it's novice, prep, and elite. And it's a place for kids who aren't on that elite track to have a place to compete, to dance, to perform. It's for emergent dancers who are just kind of beginning their dance journey. Maybe they will make it to elite. Maybe they never will. Maybe they'll be a prep dancer until they're done dancing. We just want more opportunity for these kids to get out there on the stage and to perform. It's just it gives everyone a home. Office is more restrictive. The kids are restricted in lifts, in technical skills, partnering. So it really keeps those beginning dancers against beginning dancers. We see sandbagging sometimes where the more advanced kids come down and we'll just sweep a division. And this kind of prevents that in some ways, that you can't do more than a double turn. You're not going to get out there and do a full, Alasakan series. You can only do a double turn. more wide open. And this is where the rules change came this year. Prep used to be a little bit closer to novice. And the feedback from members was that, well, then it jumps from prep to elite. We're not able to actually properly progress our kids. And I have good dancers who aren't quite elite, and prep is so restrictive, it's not developing them. It's just like novice. And so we really did go back and we took a look at the prep rules and agreed that prep needed to be opened up. So instead of it just being one set of prep rules for all of our divisions, tiny, mini, youth, junior, and senior, and well, just senior and prep. Now we've tiered it within that prep tier. So the tiny and minis, a little more restrictive. They're maybe a little bit more like novice. Then you move into that youth, that middle age group. They can do a little bit more. And then you move into junior and senior, and they can do a lot more. And those are the kids, that maybe have the eye on moving into the elite team. So now they can do a triple turn. They can do skills that help a proper progression and moving those kids along and what they're learning in the studio. So I'm thankful that membership came forward and said, look, we need a place for these kids. It's going to help business. It's going to help business for studio owners. It's going to help business for the event producers. And it's going to give our athletes, our kids, a home and a place to compete and feel like they can be successful. So I love that we have a tiered system. I know some studio competitions do out there too, but I think ours is really weighted and measured and thoughtful. So this is the first year we're going back to opening up those prep rules, and I'm really anxious to see how it goes and what it means in the future.
Yeah, we are too. We're excited to compete in that, in both divisions. And like you said, like the progression is helpful for parents. It's helpful. And just like, I don't know, like I think like you talked about the studio competitions and like this, you used the word, I think, sandbagging, and like I know any Monday go on to like some chat with studio owners across the nation, and that's always the hot topic, right? Like in this division there were kids doing this and that, or you take 3 kids. That's the other thing, like at USASF you can't have 4 kids in the elite division and then they go and be in the prep division too with another team. Like you're either prep or you're elite, and you have to stay in your lane.
That's right.
And that, I think, is what helps. And so for any studio owner out there going, oh, maybe I do want to do all-stars, this eliminates that issue. So
also, our age grid is very different than the studio world, and we understand it may be a barrier to growth and to studio, those who know the studio circuit a little bit better coming over. But what we also don't see is that 8-year-old on a team with, all 16, 17-year-olds, to bring that average age down, right? Because most studio competitions, it's an average age, and then they're competing against like 14-year-olds, and it's almost a different form of sandbagging. So I know our age grid feels prohibitive in some ways, but it's safer for the kids because they're around developmentally equal individuals. But then also they're also competing against kids their own age. They're not this averaged age where, little ones who are excellent are compete. It evens it all out. So yeah, just to tag on to that, I like the fairness it creates. And then again, the safety component is paramount for us too.
Absolutely. That's everything. We should have added that into the parent elevator pitch, because that's like...
Yes, to go back.
I'll edit that.
As USASF and as All-Star continue to evolve, because like you said, it's a whole group process, what do you see as the future for All-Star? 20 years from now, what's the vision?
Oh my gosh. It's like, I think in five-year increments, what can I get 5 years from now to go?
5 years from now too.
I think it's kind of the same goal, just bigger growth, just those pockets that you guys talked about earlier, right? Those places where All-Star doesn't have as strong a foothold. I would love to see those develop and flourish and drop that, that pin in it and see them pop up all around. So certainly in the next 5, 10 years, 20 years, I just can't imagine what it's going to look like. I hope for even more amazing routines at Worlds, bringing those international teams in, the non-US teams, and just seeing growth on the international level would be amazing. Just more just more. And then also to really differentiate our offerings and what All-Star Dance means. Yes, we love our cheer friends and we are part of this great organization that allows us to provide business resources and leadership and all of those other things. But we really want to see dance specific initiatives and dance specific resources. And I just think in the next 20 years, we could really just make it so huge, supportive and membership growth. We're a small percentage of membership. So I'm going to say, final answer, I want to see us have as many dance members as we have cheer members in USASF.
Yes.
Let's do it.
It's absolutely going to happen. I see dance take All-Star Dance taking over the country. Right now in most cities, you're going to find more circuit studios over All-Star. I think that number is going to switch, and I think it's going to switch faster than we think.
I love hearing that. I think we have some infrastructure that helps support it too. We kind of talked about safety a little bit, but those conversations are happening in the studio world, and the safety background check and sexual abuse prevention training and those things that our members have to go through, I think are going to become more and more important to the parents and to studio owners, and that's going to become appealing. I also think music licensing is kind of a big thing. In the dance team world, we're sort of used to, well, it's federal law. You just can't use someone else's music without the licensing. You can't chop it all up and put it together in a way that's illegal. It's only a matter of time until it comes to the studio world. And what we have is an infrastructure that already exists, that we have recommended providers who can do your music. We have, other recommended ways to help teach you how to cut your own music. Whatever it is, it exists already. So it'll only serve to help us grow, I think, as the studio world has to move over into those lanes a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. All the things that all of the complaints that exist in the studio circuit, All-Star has a solution for. And it's All-Star is going to take over, and then the studio circuit's going to be like, oh wait, what are they doing? And they're going to have to make changes to be able to stay relevant. And so it's great. It's going to bring those all of the amazing things that All-Star has to offer. Studios are going to have no choice, but also adjust, so it's just going to make the competitive youth dance industry as a whole better, safer, more fair, and it's the impact is going to be huge.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sarah. Are there any other items or thoughts that you've had or have come up during this that you want to make sure that we share?
No, I'm glad we circled back around to the safety, and it really is at the heart of what we do. It's the kids, it's, them getting to do something they love in a safe space, a place where they can grow and flourish and become the full human they're meant to be. So I'm just glad we circled back around to that. But no, I'm just excited to see the growth, and I appreciate you guys having me.
Sarah, thank you so much. This has been the best way we could start season 3. I'm just so grateful for your time and for your willingness and vulnerability to come and share USASF and the insights and just spending time with us and our listeners. And I know that this was a very valuable episode. I almost said season. Very valuable episode for our listeners. And it makes me even more excited to start the season. And USASF, for anyone out there that's like a studio owner listening to this and not sure about All Stars, reach out to USASF. If you want to reach out to Bree or myself, we are here to support making connections and just building this amazing program. And just thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Marley podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Beyond the Marley